Hi again, everybody. It is Victor with your NFL Over Under review and preview. And we'll, of course, get back to Mark Lawrence's podcast in just a little bit. But let's get into the NFL and let's discuss over unders in the NFL. Now, you see the totals tip sheet right over there. Right. And you see the headline of the totals tip sheet. Last week in the NFL, three overs, 11 unders. It's been a big time, all about the under season. You even see the year to date results 52 overs, 83 unders. And not only that, the night games, the NFL prime time games, have now gone under the total in 8 consecutive games. That's the Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night NFL games now. A perfect 0-8 to the under in the last 8 prime time games. Obviously, you know where we're going here. It's been a history making season in the NFL when it comes to over unders. And basically, let me get to our next page here, the NFL Week 9 over under review. Now, again, if you're not betting your unders these days, your bankroll could be getting very, very low. Hopefully, now, the weekly readers of the Totals Tip Sheet newsletter, the weekly podcast watchers and listeners, and even the people who just watch our over under segment have adjusted their wagers accordingly during this record breaking low scoring season. Again, as I mentioned last week, there were only 3 games that you would really consider to be shootouts in the NFL. That was the exciting Minnesota Atlanta game, the Tampa Bay Houston game, very exciting to watch, and of course the Dallas Philadelphia game in the late afternoon kickoffs. But with that said, every other game, that's 11 of them, had 42 or less combined points. So the official results from last week, like you see on the totals tip sheet, page one, were 3 overs, 11 unders, and average combined points 41.1 last week. That average of 41.1, the third lowest of the season. After 9 weeks, of course, the year to date results 52 overs, 83 unders, one tie. That is 61.5% under the total for the full season. And that is the best start for unders in the NFL through 9 weeks, going all the way back to the 1990 season. You got to go back about 30 years or more to find underwhelming results like we have seen through the first 9 weeks. Again, like I mentioned, the primetime games. Again, all 3 of them last week went under the total, just like the previous week as well. So the primetime games, the night games on the season, 7 overs, 22 unders. You don't want to be betting the over in these games. It's under or lay off, just like we told you last week in the Monday night game between the Chargers and the Jets, an under that we indeed did cash. Now, again, it's been a very low scoring season. You got to be betting your unders in the NFL. However, there are still plenty of bettors out there who like betting their overs. Here's something we're going to suggest, and we introduced this into this week's Totals Tip Sheet newsletter. First half over the totals in the NFL. Obviously, you can bet the full game over under, but you can also bet the first half over under. You can even bet the second half over under. And we've mentioned it in this week's Totals Tip Sheet newsletter. There are some teams who have actually had good over the total records this year in the first half of their games. So consider these teams if you're looking for an over. Obviously, don't forget, this is the first half over under. But best over teams in the first half of this season, both the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers have gone 7-1 to the over in first half totals this season. Very impressive, very high scoring first halves in Dallas and San Francisco games. Also, Miami, Philadelphia, and Washington are all 7-2 over under in first halves this season. Cincinnati Bengals 6-2 to the over. Chicago Bears 6-3 to the over. Those are your top 7 or 8 over teams to look at in the first half of the season. First half of their games. Since we're on the subject, the best under teams in the first half, Green Bay Packers 1 over 6 unders in the first half of their games. Minnesota 2-7 over under. Jacksonville 2-6 over under. Kansas City, LA Rams 3-6 over under. So again, consider betting the totals in the first half. It's been the only over segment this year in the NFL that's turned a profit, and that is first half overs in the NFL. With that said, we're going to take you to our boy Tuco, and Tuco has a team total in the first half that he's going to be betting over in. And it's in a weird game. It's in the Cleveland-Baltimore Ravens game. The Browns playing the Ravens in a big AFC North battle. And Tuco is going to play the first half over 19.5 points in the Cleveland Browns Baltimore Ravens game. Now, I know it sounds shocking to go over the total in any AFC North game, but hear us out here. And there's a good chance that I'll convince you that this was indeed wager worthy. We know already that the Ravens have come out like gangbusters on offense in the first half of their games this season. They're averaging 15.0 points per game on their own in the first half. That's number 5 in the entire league. But they've even improved on these numbers as of late. In their last 3 games, the Ravens are actually averaging 19.7 points per game in the first half. On the flip side, Cleveland's also a much better offensive team in the first half of their games, where they're averaging 12.6 points per game on their own. And like their counterparts, Cleveland is clicking upward as of late because their last 3 games, they've averaged 18.0 points per game in the first half. So in this one, we got a really high ceiling, a maximum potential of anywhere from 24 to 35 points if the recent trends hold true. And let's not also ignore this year's earlier meeting between these two teams. They hooked up back in week 3, and when the Browns and Ravens met in that game, there were 24 total points scored in the first half, only 7 points scored in the second half. So there you have it. We're going to pass on the full game total, but your free play for week 10 in the NFL, we're going to give the ball to our doggy Tuco. We're going to let him run with it, and he's playing on the Browns-Ravens over 19.5 points in the first half of their game this Sunday. There you have it, our over-under review of week 9, a little bit of a preview of week 10. Again, stick with the unders. It's been a record-breaking season. That'll do it for now. Best of luck in week 10, and we're going to get you right back to the Mark Lawrence Against the Spread podcast.